Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Women Empowerment Forum organized by L'Occitane en Provence here at the AUD. It's a great location, a great place, and we're surrounded by students and young entrepreneurs and amazing ladies that will be part of the panel today, thanks to AUD and thanks to L'Occitane. So welcome, everyone. My name is Sabine Sassine, and I'm a TV presenter and producer with almost 2 decades of experience in the television, mostly in entertainment and sports. And I'm delighted to moderate this panel today about women empowerment. Now, the essence of women empowerment is allowing women to gain influence and equal opportunity to pursue social, personal, and professional achievements with the same rights as men. Luckily, unlike previous decades ago, women have achieved so much in so many fields, not only in the Middle East, but across the globe. But unfortunately, women also are still having some discrimination against them, whether it's here in the region or across the globe. That's why it's very important to keep on talking about women empowerment, to keep on promoting women empowerment, because only by promoting women empowerment and empowering women that we help them achieve their ambitions, their dreams, and that we advance as a society together. Now we're here because of L'Occitane, and to tell you about L'Occitane, for L'Occitane, or at L'Occitane, this is a fundamental social responsibility commitment to the brand. This didn't start now, because at L'Occitane, since the 1980s, so 4 decades ago, L'Occitane has worked closely with women who produce shea butter in Burkina Faso. They launched multiple projects in the last 4 decades, in addition to the Resist program, that focuses on girls' education, job training, and entrepreneurship with a high social and environmental impact for women. L'Occitane wanted to give the women of Burkina Faso who produce their shea butter their financial independence. That's why the founder of the brand, Olivier Bossan, calls this magic ingredient that we use in our creams women's gold, because it's simply like gold for women. It gives them their financial independence, and it's a great product at the same time and a great ingredient. Now we're here today to have a conversation with these amazing ladies, powerful, empowered, and empowering women who will share their journey, their experiences with you today. You, the students of AUD, and also the young entrepreneurs who joined us today, and some other guests also, thank you for coming. I hope you leave here inspired, empowered, and knowing that you can achieve anything that you want. Now, without further ado, I feel like I talked too much, right? Let's start by introducing the great panelists that we have for today. Please join me in welcoming Nisreen Sheir, CEO of Virgin Mobile Middle East and Africa. How are you, Nisreen?
Hi, Sabine. Thank you for the lovely intro. Well,
also, next to Nisreen, Christine Aswad, founder and CEO of Dunkin' Donuts Lebanon and Simsum, and Catalyst of Growth.
amongst many other things.
Sophie Boutros, Lebanese filmmaker and director. Mariana Rodriguez, I hope I pronounced it right, marketing director of L'Occitane Middle East. And Johaina Al-Meheri, Emirati Air Traffic Control Officer. Welcome, ladies. Is this Mama, who's so proud? Yeah, I can see that. So obvious, I can see that. Okay, so thank you for joining, ladies, and for making time for this today. I'm going to start with you, Nisreen. So Nisreen, you're the current CEO of Virgin Mobile in the Middle East and Africa, and you previously were also the CEO of Yoox.
Net-a-Porter.
Net-a-Porter, yeah, exactly. So from, let's say, e-commerce and tech to telecommunication, you've been heading some C-class positions, and it's not something very common here in the region. I was just checking how many people hold this position in the region or in the Emirates. It's around 5%. So you represent 5% of the CEOs of the UAE. Tell me, as a woman, what were the obstacles that you faced so that you reached where you are today?
So first of all, I wanted to say that it's really nice to see, as women panelists, how many people have come to support them from within their own circles. So that's already a beautiful thing to observe and watch. Phones out, clapping, so that's great. Second, Sabine, your journey, I have to congratulate you as well, because you're probably one of the less than 1% women in sports globally, actually, not just in the region. So you failed to mention that, so I feel I need to mention that on your behalf. I started in media, in entertainment, in front of the camera and behind the camera. And I never actually thought that I would be in the C-level. And it was the love of tech early on in the late 90s. And then it became a passion. So through, I would say, not just hard work, but the fact that I found my place in the workplace. And I found my success factors and what make me work. So early on, the combination of, we call it the right side and the left side coming together, but also the empathy started playing a bigger role. I moved to the Middle East not too long ago. I was in New York and London before that. So actually, in Europe and the US, you find it harder to find women in the C-level. I would say, specifically in the UAE and the GCC, you see it more common. So if anything, I would say that I feel very supported, let's say from a government perspective and from a mandate as a business environment. But also, I would say, really working in something that you love. If you work in something that you don't love, nothing will get you to the top, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, so you love tech, fashion, and telecommunication now.
Well, telecommunication is really tech, so we're using telco to get to tech. So you'll hear a lot more about that very, very soon, which will involve fashion as well. I've always loved fashion, I've always loved media, and today tech is in the heart of everything that we do. So there isn't anything that we do, whether you're on television or otherwise, and Nadine and I worked at MBC before as well, tech is at the core of what we do. So you can't not be in tech. Some people say, I'm not a techie. I don't think whether you sell donuts or you do all the things that Christine does, you can't not say that you're not in tech today. It's core to what we do.
Absolutely. Nisreen, we heard that you were hired and fired during the same day.
Same hour.
Same hour?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a record. Did you enter the Guinness Book of Record with that? No?
Oh yeah, I should enter. That's a good idea. It was my second tech job, actually, in the early days of the internet, the first bust, actually. And I got a call, and I was hired. I walked in at 8 a.m., my first day on the job. You invest in that suit because you want to go in and make an impression. And they said I had a meeting with HR. So the thought is I have a meeting to talk about what I'm going to be doing, who I'm going to be reporting into. Nadine is laughing because she's heard that story many times probably. And they gave me a paper that said I get 12 months severance because the company is shutting down.
Wow.
So
amazing luck, by the way.
My first thought was I can't return the suit. It cost a fortune. What am I going to do now? But I use that story because what I did was everyone took their bags and left. And there was the CEO who had to shut down the business. And I sat in front of this guy I'd never met, Seth, and I said, do you mind me just taking a desk in front of you? I need an email to send out some emails and get my next job. Maybe it'll take a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks became a couple of months. Every time the phone would ring, because we were shutting down a massive operation, I'd pick it up. I ended up closing down France, Germany. How do you learn how to build a business? You shut down a business. you really learn what not to do and what to do when you have to shut down a business, especially when I was 26 at the time. So myself and this mega star CEO ended up shutting down 9 countries and call centers and you name it. And then I ended up getting an EVP position right after that because he saw in me what probably I would have never had the exposure for someone else to see by just being available. I did everything from the coffee to cleaning the office to taking the phone calls. There was no job too small, and literally it was every job no one wanted to do. But I learned a lot, and it got me my big step up. Everyone gets that golden Willy Wonka ticket once in their lifetime if they recognize it. That was mine.
It's interesting how you said you recognize it, because a lot of people might have completely shut down and, you know, went somewhere else and thought, well, I was fired, why would I even bother?
They did. They all left. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to move to you. Now, let's talk a bit about Christine. Christine, we mentioned that you have a passion for donuts and good coffee. So a long time ago, you decided to start a business in coffee and donuts in Lebanon, and you brought Dunkin' Donuts to Lebanon. You were so young back then, still young though. What was the passion that drove you back then? What was the reason to succeed?
So I started my first business at 22, and at 22 you don't think that failure is an option. So the way it happened is that I was finishing my master's at McGill in Montreal, and I was spending more time in coffee shops than at university, which is probably something I shouldn't be saying in a university, but this is the reality. And I love the feeling, like this home away from home kind of feeling. And I decided to share this with my generation of university students in Lebanon, and this is how Dunkin' started. Then with Sumsum, it was about sharing Lebanese cuisine, and now with the Empowering Tribe is about sharing learning and challenges and opportunities with our community. So for me, what has been my driver is this sharing experiences, and as Nisreen was saying, when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And my daughters, one of them is here today, they always say that I don't work because even though I'm working 15 hours a day, I love so much what I do that I don't feel that I work. So if I have one thing that I would like all of you to remember, just choose something that you love, that excites you, that pushes you to get out of the bed in the morning. And I'm 49 now, so it's been a long journey, and I don't feel that I worked one day in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Christine, I heard you the first time, and also it was a women empowerment panel like this one, and you said I dedicated the first part of my career to my career itself, and then now I want to dedicate the next part to something that I love. And it seems that what you love is unlocking people's potential and helping them grow, and not everyone, mostly women. So tell us about this Catalyst of Growth project.
Okay, so thank you, because this is something I'm very passionate about. So as you said, the first 20 years I was building my own business, and I learned a lot. I did a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of things that I know how to do better now. And 10 years ago, I started mentoring entrepreneurs first, general entrepreneurs, and then I decided to focus on female entrepreneurs. So I've mentored more than 100 female entrepreneurs so far, and the Empowering Tribe, which is a program that we're launching next week, that is the continuation of this mentoring program, is really for people. The tagline is to empower and be empowered, very close to your tagline today.
Womanize power.
Exactly. So it's like taking the power within all these women and pushing ourselves, because at the end of the day, for me to succeed in business, it's about 3 things. Okay, so 3 things only. First is about mindset. it's about you at the end of the day. It's about your mindset. It's about what you're telling to yourself. Because it's your brain is going to want to prove you right no matter what you say to yourself. So if you say to yourself, I'm a loser, it's going to prove you right that you're a loser. But if you say to yourself that I'm a winner and I can do it, it's going to prove you right and help you win it and do it. So first is your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, there's nothing you can do. And this is the first actually class that we work on when I mentor female entrepreneurs is on mindset. So this is one. Second is about purpose and vision. So understanding why you're doing what you're doing, what are you trying to accomplish, what is success to you, what do you want to achieve? Because when you have a vision, when you have clarity on where you're going, you have much more possibilities to actually get there. So this is second. And then third is executions. And this is where you get the skills in business schools, in workshops, in tribes like the Empowering Tribe. Like you get the skills to know how to execute. But if you don't have the right mindset and the right purpose and vision, then execution helps, but not as much as if these three work and align together.
What about the right behavior? Because we can have the right mindset, but then when we come to practice every day, we do something else.
Usually mindset and behaviors come together because mindset is really mostly how you talk to yourself. You cannot be like lying to yourself. Like it's not you and someone else. The competition is between you and you. The only limits is you. Like everything else you can take care of. But if you don't have the right mindset and that will lead to the right behavior, then you won't like unleash your potential. And everyone has unlimited potential. Whoever tells you the opposite, don't believe them. Like every single one of you can do whatever you want to do and be whoever you want to be. It's all in your mindset. This is where it all starts.
There's a series called Unlimited now about this, by the way. We'll move to you, Sophie. So I guess everyone knows Sophie here.
We can see that.
So, Sophie, the film industry, we'll start with the film industry. Since you're a filmmaker, it's also not the easiest environment for women. And we've seen recently so many movements around the world asking for more representation, more better pay, equal pay, let's call it, equal pay and equal, equal treatment for women in this industry. How do you consider equality in the region? How do you consider equality is in the region compared to, you know, globally? Are we doing better than globally? Are we doing better than the States, like Nisreen said, or we're still behind?
So thank you for having me again, and I'm really delighted to be sitting on this panel. It's really an honor. We cannot really compare. First of all, we don't want to fall in the trap of talking about the region as a whole, as one identity. When you talk about the region, you have so many societies inside that region and so many mindsets inside those societies. So it's a common question that I've been asked, you know, by, let's say, Western press about how do you feel as a female filmmaker in the Arab world, etc. There's no one Arab world here. Like, we're talking about so many different mindsets. I'm Lebanese. I work in Lebanon, mostly. I live in the UAE, and I've witnessed here how much women are supported and, you know, given the power and all of that. Plus, we do not have an industry. So what applies globally, and let's say mainly in the US, because it's the biggest, you know, industry in cinema, doesn't compare to this part of the world. In the contrary, here I see that women are given, as filmmakers especially, a lot of chances to direct, to act. A lot of stories are about women because there is a sense of deprivation and a cinema as being not an industry except in Egypt. So if you just take out Egypt from the Arab world, you don't have a proper industry in the region. So all these experiences, the individual experiences, are trying to put the woman, you know, up front and, you know, tell her stories, etc. Like for my first film, for example, I had most of my crew were women. Nobody ever was treated differently or with disrespect or anything like that. I worked now on a series where, you know, now it's like booming series in the Arab world are happening by tens. And I noticed and I experienced like a lot of, you know, consideration for my position as a director, regardless of my gender. So I don't see it as a stereotype. It's just experiences here and there. And us being not in industry maybe helps, because you start working on this project of like empowering women through people who want to really talk about what's maybe missing here and there in our societies. Women empowerment is one of them, or giving women a voice, etc. So I've never felt that I've been, discriminated against, or, treated in a way that is less than any other man in my crew, or in a position similar to mine, etc. And I cannot really find an example that, sheds the light on any injustice in that sense.
Yeah, because it's mostly indie films, as you said, in the region, and it seems that independent films, we have actually a very high percentage of women, especially in Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, and recently in Saudi, which is very, very interesting, because women in Saudi now, almost 50%, as far as I understood, are women indie filmmakers. So we have so much to say, and I guess we're saying it through films. If you have the choice to go back in time, I wish anyone had this choice. If you had the choice to go back to the beginning of your career, what would you change about your career? What decision would you take that you think would have impacted your path?
Yeah. I think I would be less careful of the results, like mindful of like what's going to come next if I do this or that. Maybe what I would say to my students, those who I teach or I don't teach, is that just dare to make mistakes, because this is the time where you are still protected. You are in an environment that supports you, let's say at university, in your first jobs. Don't play it safe, because I played it safe in so many ways. So if you play it safe and you're afraid of failure, and now we're talking about mindsets, really you can be your own enemy. So just like give yourself the freedom to try things, even if you know they're going to be very challenging, even if you don't know for sure that you're going to succeed, just go ahead and do them if you want. Do the mistake, learn from it, and then move on to something else. Don't be very critical of yourself and of your capabilities, and put, failure ahead of you. Fail, it's fine. I'm not saying that everyone will succeed in every step of their way, but it's okay to fail and gain that power to stand up again and challenge themselves again.
I guess you're Lebanese also, and you had this the education that we have in school, which is quite the opposite. So we are taught not to fail, to be perfect, to have good grades, and as if this is what will help you achieve good things in life, which is quite the opposite.
Which is wrong. And I do that with my kids now. I don't expect them to be the best at anything. I just expect them to put the effort. Like, it's the effort that matters, and I learned that from my sister, who's, my role model in terms of
she's here.
Of my kids, and really, it's the effort that you put, because life is about putting an effort in everything, even if in your friendships, in your sisterhood, in your husband, kids, everything. So it's the effort that really counts.
Absolutely. And we're going to move to you, Mariana Rodriguez. How do we pronounce your name again, Mariana?
Rodrigues.
Okay, that's
it's okay. Let's stick to Mariana.
Portuguese, and that's So, Mariana Rodriguez, you're the marketing director of L'Occitane Middle East, and we mentioned at the beginning of this panel that women empowerment is a core value at L'Occitane. So, what does the brand aspire to achieve in terms of women equality in the region, Mariana? You know better than everyone else here.
I think the brand doesn't have an ambition for the region. It has an ambition for the world. And the world is really about putting across the equal opportunities that we're talking about, and to use this opportunity to drive the change and to really cultivate this change mindset. When the brand puts something, and you were talking a bit about the core and why did it start, it's not that, the founders of the brand and the CEOs and the board members sit in the room and said, okay, let's see what are the key pillars or the core commitments that we want to follow. It's just came hand in hand. It's the same thing that you say that the brand has the ingredients from the south of France. It's the same way that it comes with the story of Burkina Faso and Shia. Olivier Bousson was not even supposed to visit Burkina Faso. He was actually at the airport talking to someone, and this person spoke to him about Burkina Faso. And he had a flight, and it's like, you know what? I feel that there's something there. He changed his flight. He flew to Burkina Faso, and when he reached there, he was amazed. He was amazed by the power of this ingredient, and he was amazed by the potential of changing people's life. And I think it's really about breaking this cycle of poverty. The way we tackle women empowerment, it's not about charity, it's really about opportunity. And when you break the cycle, you can really start something big. And I think this is what we ambition for the world. And it's not, I mean, a lot of people say this, but it's not about doing a big change. It's the small steps that all of us we can give about this equal opportunity and about breaking the cycle, breaking the bias. Sometimes it's just one small thing that can really make a huge difference. So this is what we want.
I understood that this shea butter tree, only women can work on them?
Yeah, it's really a tradition that goes from mother to daughter, and men are not allowed to touch. And it's also a tree that by itself it's preserved, because you cannot pick up the nut from the tree. You actually have to wait for the nut to fall into the floor. So it's really about respecting biodiversity as well. And it's really, you know, you had a society of women that were fully dependent on men. Mm-hmm. They couldn't support themselves. They couldn't finance themselves. They earn money. And when you have money, you have choice. In this case, you can be independent. You don't need to follow someone else's rules. You can create your own rules. So this, for me, is super powerful, because I think sometimes it's really, you know, you were talking about, you didn't use these words, but the golden ticket. I mean, sometimes it's really about having this opportunity of doing something different. And I mean, obviously, in the end, he's a businessman. He created a brand. There's still something there. We are selling the products. But if you can still support someone else's lives with it, why not? You know, you can do both. You don't need to choose only one way.
Absolutely. Mariana, I'm sure this is not the only project focused around women empowerment that L'Occitane has in the pipeline. So what other projects do you have that are dear to your heart, or that you consider that you're proud of?
We are we are cooking something super special now. We're actually, I don't know if you heard, and apologies my Arabic accent, there's this company called City, Grandma.
City.
Yes, you know, I can say it's the same with Rodriguez. I will never be able to. So basically, it's a Canadian-based company, but their workforce are from women from the refugees camps coming from Palestine. So based in Jordan, also some camps in Syria, and even some other camps in Turkey. So basically, they produce some handmade soaps, and they produced some plant-based loofahs, and they also produced some tote bags and some soap holders. So what we're doing with them for the next Ramadan is that we are buying some products from them, using this workforce, and again, we were able to actually escalate the needs for their business. So if some women, they were doing some temporary job, now they could get a long-term job because of what we are ordering. And we are using these products to give it to our customers as a gift with purchase, which is a common practice in beauty. So we are super excited, and we are actually going there. Some of the team members have been already there in the refugees camp, seeing how these women are working, seeing how proud they are to see their work revealing to the world. I'm actually going next week with Noor to travel to Jordan as well to meet some of these women. And, you know, the sentence they say and the simplicity and the gratitude they have on things, it really makes you think that sometimes we just need to value more what we have. And I mean, sorry, I get a bit emotional about this, because it's really just about being grateful, you know. And they have so much to give, and they are so happy that they can see their work being recognized, and it shouldn't be needed this much effort, you know. It should be something more natural. So for us, it's super dear to our hearts that we can give a voice to these women and to continue the principles of the brand with someone that is so close to us. And you know, I'm not from the region. I'm Portuguese, as we mentioned. And for me, these stories of Palestine, it's something that I studied in the books back then at home. And then when you're close and when you see the reality, and when you see that it's human beings, it's real stories, it's just not a page in the history book, And when you feel that you can do something to support and that your brand can do something, for me, it really takes a different magnitude. And I think this is what we want for the region, is to really contribute with something that can drive the change.
S-I-T-I.
T-E-E.
Double T? S-I-double-T-I, yeah.
It's grandma. That's
Grandma.
what I know.
Yeah.
You can put S-I-T-T-I soap altogether.com.
Mariana, you work in beauty, obviously, and you're surrounded by women, and 80-90% of the team is made of women. How do you empower your team?
Look,
on a day-to-day basis?
I think I don't feel I need to empower them. I think they're
powerful
empowered enough. I'm lucky enough to work with a very intelligent and dynamic and committed team. And I think it's just about setting the right platforms to have people sharing opinions and hear each other. I think, you know, everyone has great ideas and everyone has something to contribute. So it's really just to create this environment of sharing and of being able to listen each other and to work together in the project, and everyone has a voice. And we all agree, and sometimes we disagree, and sometimes we share different perspectives and point of views, but I mean, they're all super capable, and I don't know, for me, it's just about giving the right platform, and then they just shine, as simple as this.
And then the sky is the limit, yeah. Mariana, you're lucky to be sitting next to these powerful women, and then next to you, there's a very powerful woman with a strong voice. Yeah, she is the voice inside the pilot's headset, right?
Yes, it's...
So you're an air traffic control officer. It's the first time I ever meet an air traffic control officer, and it's a woman, and it's a Khaliji woman. So tell us, how did you... How did you break through this stereotype? How did you become what you are today?
So honestly, I have been reflecting on this when you told me you were going to ask me this question. And I don't think I broke the stereotype. I completely went and crushed it. And the reason for that, and the way that I did that, was by showing up and being unapologetically myself. I was 19 years old when I got recruited, similar age group I can see in the audience. And I showed up to work, male-dominated industry, colorful abaya, full face of makeup, my bubbly personality, and people chose to quite literally judge the book by its cover. They chose to judge me based on what I looked like and what I sounded like, instead of focusing on my intellect. And you can bet I definitely proved all of them wrong. And I had to remind myself during that journey, because the training program was about 2.5 years long. And it was a grueling journey. It was quite tough. I had to do it between Abu Dhabi and the UK. And I had to remind myself that opinions are just opinions. And other people's opinions of you are their problem and not your own. So I did that. I focused on that. I took it one day, one shift, one air traffic control session at a time. And clearly my method worked, because here I am a decade later, sharing my story with you and hoping to empower you to do the same, but do it, and in that process, be unapologetically yourself as well.
So by being unapologetically yourself, you get so much stress, I'm sure. I mean, you have the most stressful job in the world. By describing it today, I was already stressed, you know? So as a woman, what attributes you use as a woman? I thought yoga and meditation kind of things to cope with the stress every 8-hour shift, or after or between the breaks.
So before I answer the question on how I cope, air traffic control is a relatively unknown field. So I'll put into perspective why it's so stressful before I go into the tips, right? Air traffic control is stressful, but if you think about it, and this is going into a completely different profession, just so everybody can relate. When a surgeon goes to work, I think we all can agree they have a very stressful job, right? Yes? Okay. However, surgeons impact only one life at a time. As for air traffic control, we impact hundreds and thousands of lives at any given moment in time during the shift. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the double-decker aircraft that Emirates is popular with. Any guesses on how many passengers that aircraft is certified to carry? You know, don't tell.
800 something?
Yeah, it's 840 souls on board. And that's one aircraft. Imagine playing a video game with no game over option, and the stakes are human life. Now let me tell you how I cope with that. I was very lucky that I had a mentor very early in my career that had given me this advice. And before I enter work, there's this massive gate that I have to go through. And he told me on one of my breaks when I was going through a tough time during my training, he's like, Jaheena, go outside and take everything that's impacting you that has nothing to do with air traffic control and put it in an imaginary little box and box it up, tape it up, and leave it there. And as you walk through the gate, you visualize as though you're leaving all of that behind, because there are positive and negative things in your personal life that can impact you when you're dealing with high stress. So I started to do that, and eventually, now it comes to me automatically. However, of course, I had to add my own little twist to it. So I have about a 40-minute drive from home to work, and about 10 minutes before I reach work, I switch off the audiobook, and I turn on my favorite song that makes me feel like an absolute boss.
Which one's that?
Right now it's Players.
I Can Buy Myself Flowers? No? Players, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. That one. So I put that on and I just vibe, right? And then the next song that comes on, thank you YouTube Music, it goes with the same flow. And I just dance it out. I've had to apologize to my steering wheel for the things that she felt. But I channeled that energy, right? And I'm like, I'm here for a reason. I'm a boss. I've put the work in, and I'm ready to dominate this shift. I take it one shift at a time. What happens tomorrow's problem? So that's what I do in that sense. And then in between, while I work, I have my faith, and also I meditate. It's 2 to 3 minutes, great application. I have this guy that sounds great in my ear, sorry husband, and I listen to him tell me how to breathe, and then I go back in, and I'm ready to do it all over again. The training program's really long, so they teach you how to compartmentalize your thoughts in your mind in order to be able to handle it. So that's how I cope, and now all of you know why it's so stressful.
And do pilots listen to you? Men?
They must.
Off with their heads, huh? What do you do when they don't listen? I mean, how would you act? Give us an example.
I feel like all of you can tell I have a strong personality. If you can't, here it is. But Maitha is one of my mentees. She's currently, inshallah, the 4th female that'll make it through the program. And she's heard me express myself when they don't listen. And now I have a reputation that there's this Emirati girl who'll put you in your place and definitely listen to her. So I'm glad I've said that, because then it'll be easier for you and everyone else that comes.
I was just checking with her. It seems it's only for Emiratis if you want to learn it here. And I know so many of you now are intrigued and want to try becoming what she is. So you need to either go back to your country to study it, or if you're Emirati, you go speak to her after this. Yeah. Nisreen, I'm going to...
Can I actually ask a question?
Yes, please.
What about hours, working hours? How do you manage that?
So it's an 8-hour shift, and it changes. So your circadian rhythm is everywhere. So it's 8 hours, and it goes morning shift, so 6 till 2. Then after 2 days, you do 2 till 10 p.m. And then after 2 days, you do 10 till 6 a.m. Then you get 4 days off, you travel, and you cope. But in that 8-hour shift, you are legally allowed to work between 4 to 6 hours, and you have set breaks in the middle. So I know, okay, I'm working for an hour and a half, I have a set 30-minute break. So it's quite nice that way, because there's full structure, because the job is 24/7.
But it's very unsociable, I guess.
I mean, I have a lot of people coming here to support me, so yeah, I managed to squeeze it in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
considering a shift, Nisreen, after this. Nisreen, in your everyday work, you deal with the youngest generation, who's known to be the smartest. I'm going to give you all the compliments now. The smartest, the most educated, etc. How do you learn from this young generation every day?
I think someone mentioned, maybe Christine mentioned, empowering and being empowered. We have to constantly realize that there's no such thing as in the olden days. It was somebody who's developed in their career and they're mentoring somebody who's younger. I think that cycle has changed. We're constantly learning, and I learn from you, you learn from me, peer-to-peer, boss to employee, and the other way around. So, for example, you could be more advanced in tech than I am, and I can learn a lot from you. You can be more advanced in terms of learning how to speak openly and not be so conscious of what you're saying in case somebody else might be upset by what you're saying. For me, that's still a boundary from my generation. I can learn how to be more outspoken. So I think that what helps is realizing that the learning is never ending. That's really important. And that if I'm open to learning from you, you're open to learning from me. I'm not someone who believes in, let's say, the preachy method of working with teams. I work in a very empowering environment. What I see from the new generation is that, oh, now it's working. What I've realized from the new generation is that you like autonomy, you like trust, you like space to grow. And you no longer believe in the concept of working in a company for 3 years, 5 years. You believe in trying new experiences, traveling, building your own business early on. And for any company that's trying to hold on to the next generation, first, we have to be very tech savvy. Second, we have to give the opportunity to work from anywhere, give you the space to come up with ideas and explore them. I have a few people in the room who have worked with me, not for me. So this is really a very different way of thinking. I've never had a team who worked for me. We always worked together. And if you do that, then you hold on to your team a little bit longer. On the way over, I was talking to someone who worked for me for 8 years, and we've not worked together for 4 or 5 years. And we were just exchanging thoughts on work. She's just started a new company. She's going through something difficult in her personal life. And that's very important. The people who you work with, they have to remain in your life, I feel, for a very long time. I always say one day they work for you, in the future you may work for them. There's nothing wrong with that. But allowing the opportunity and the stage for you all to really express yourselves. So as you go into the workplace, and I'm not sure if this is an EMBA program. Is this the program? This is the EMBA building, but the students are... Okay, got it. So as you go in and you start looking for your job or your next job, I would say who you work for is more important than which company you work in, because that's going to be the culture that transforms you, and that's going to be the person who's going to allow you to learn and grow and do the things that you love.
Absolutely. I think this is how we remember where we used to work, by people, only people. It's not about the company. It's not about the nice name on the CV. It's mostly about people you report to and people who you work with. Talking about continuous education, Christine, you've been, I mean, spending your time at universities since ever,
yes,
right?
Yes, non-stop. I haven't stopped since, I just came back from Harvard for an executive program, so it's like continuously, I didn't stop 1 year, because the more you learn, the more you realize how much more you can learn.
What advice would you give today to all the young men and women who are here and who'd like to follow your step one day? Actually, I'd like to ask this question to all of you ladies.
Okay, so first is a lot of the things that Nisreen said, so I'm not going to repeat them, but I can relate to everything she mentioned. I would think of two things. First is continuously learn, because again, the more you learn, the more you realize that seeing different perspectives and learning from different people, and every single person in your life is going to teach you something. So being humble enough to constantly receive learning is very important. The second is find your tribe. And for me, this has been being supported with other people, because you don't have to do that alone. Like, you don't have to feel alone in whatever you're doing. Like, for me, YPO and Nisreen and I are part of the same business organization. This is my tribe. This is my support group. What we're doing with the Empowering Tribe is a group of female leaders that are here to celebrate their successes, but also to hold themselves accountable to be able to constantly move and grow. So find your tribe. Find a group of people that you can connect with, that you can relate to, that are going to be your accountability partners to be able to constantly grow and thrive and be whoever you want to be.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Sophie, also as a professor, you're so close to different generations here at the university. What advice would you give them?
I'm going to be very specific about our field, because I see students who want to graduate and become directors and producers the next day. I think they have to start to learn being very humble and accepting that this job is not only about fame and glamour and prestige. It's about passion, so they have to really keep on growing the passion in them, being modest enough to take small jobs, to observe, to learn, on the journey. Even if they believe themselves to be capable of becoming directors now, it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking out of lack of belief in their capabilities, not at all, because a lot of our students are ready to just be on the job and do it properly and creatively. But it's not only the creative side and the skills that you learn about the job. It's the people skills that you need to build in this field specifically, be it in media in general, but I'm talking here about filmmaking. You have to know how to deal with people. There's a teamwork involved in this, where roles are distributed very, very, clearly, but at the same time, people have to intersect a lot, work together a lot. So it's not only about the skills that you learn about cinematography, directing, and all of that. It's how to deal with this big group of people and make it a successful, experience. So for this to build up, it needs a few years, for you to be on small jobs, observing others how they work, asking questions, and even doing the small things that are, like making coffee and copying papers and stuff like that, which are not aib, are not something that is demeaning or that puts you down. بالعكس, you can really learn from these small things just by being in the same room with people who are, bigger achievers than you so far, and just take it step by step, because at the end, if you want to be in a leading position, you want your team to trust you. You don't want the position by itself, because if you have that position but nobody believes in what you're saying, or nobody believes in your guidance or your way of doing things, it stays like a void. It doesn't mean anything. It's really being a leader of a group who really believes in you, trusts you, and shares with you. And this takes years, and they have to be patient about it.
Patience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Mariana, what's your advice?
Maybe nothing much new from what was already said here, but for me, I think that it should come with passion, respect, and a lot of resilience. There's so many things that I think all of us have done that we didn't particularly enjoy. But I think in whatever life gives you, we have two options. Or we take it and we try to play it around in the way that at least brings something good, or you just complain and nag about it and it's not something that will add any value to your life. So if you have your passion, that it's your drive, if you respect others towards the way, because in the end, you are working with people, as we said, so it's really important to understand that everyone has a voice and that everyone has a perspective. And in the end, resilience, because there will always, regardless of your position, there will always be things that you don't necessarily would like to do, and you need to suck it up. Apologies for my expression. So for me, that would be the 3 things that I think that I personally would leave as an advice.
Thank you, Mariana. Juhayna, any last advice?
So my advice goes to everybody in all age groups. And it's okay to feel a little lost. We went through a massive pandemic. Everything and everybody was displaced. So if you're feeling a little bit lost about what your next step is, it's okay. But you have to take a moment and really trust yourself and retreat if you need to and ask yourself what you want. It's not about what your mom wants, your dad wants, what's expected of you in society. What do you want? And be fully honest with yourself, whatever it is. Hopefully it's good and not evil. So be honest with yourself, have that proper conversation, and then when you've decided what you want to do, start a list and trace back how to get there. And then make it happen. Because as everybody on this panel has said, whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve it. And we are evidence of that. So trust in yourself and believe in yourself. But make sure whatever it is you do is truly what you want to do.
Thank you, Juhayna. So, the quick recap, do what you want to do, start small and be humble, be yourself, keep on learning, and create a nice environment. I guess this is a quick recap of what those amazing ladies just said. Now it's time for you, ladies and gentlemen, to ask your questions. So if you have any questions to any of our panelists, please raise your hand and someone will hand you the mic. Any questions?
Thank you. Actually, my question is for Juhayna. Something you said really caught my attention, which was people's opinions of you are their own problem. And that's something I always try to say to myself. But when it comes to the professional world, sometimes a manager's opinion of you really can affect on how you grow in your field and the career path that you're trying to achieve. Especially when it's the leadership that may foster certain opinions due to maybe being too flamboyant or being a strong woman or having strong opinions with certain skills that may intimidate others. So how do you deal with that when it's really not in your hands on how their opinions formulate their growth plan for you in a specific field?
Well, honestly, I think that when it comes to that, it really is out of your hands. But what I did, if I haven't actually really dealt with that, but what my advice to you would be was to focus on being the best at what you have to do. Because when you go into that job, it's about the job, right? Okay, yeah, I have the sassy attitude and everything, but I'm good at what I do. And that's how I gained that respect. Because they can't ignore your brilliance at that job, regardless of how you are. I'm sure you've seen people in the building that you would have worked with, and you're like, oh, how did they get there? You know, and why are they like this? And it's because they're probably really good at what they do. So be the best that you can be at what it is that you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for all the other panelists. You guys are really inspirational.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. First of all, thank you for all of your talks, because we really need to hear that. We actually do. It's really important. Like, no matter how much we sometimes, from time to time, have that talk, but when we see successful women telling us that, it truly empowers us. So thank you all. I have 2 questions. One for Juhayna. As an Emirati woman, I want to know, how hard was it for you to, let's say, convince, or I don't know how supportive your family was, but how hard was it in an Arabic society, especially in an Emirati society, to tell them that you want to do that and you want to work in a field where it's full of men? So how hard was that?
So thankfully, the household I was raised in would be what we would call open-minded. I'm very proudly mixed race. My father is Emirati, my mother is Tanzanian. And I was, to put it To sugarcoat it, I was raised in an all-girl household. I was raised by my 3 mothers, and I feel like their approval is all that I needed. My mother, biological mother, who instilled in me the importance of hard work. My grandmother, who was an orphan in Africa and then went to medical school and then married the love of her life and made my mom. And then I've got my auntie, you know, she's a doctor in the States now. She was the 3rd ever female gynecologist in Tanzania. So I was raised by these strong and resilient women. And throughout the time I was growing up, I had more women that came into my life that helped me. So it was about me being lucky enough to be around all these women that were so empowered that raised me to do that. In terms of asking the Emirati side, I had to let my father know that this is what I'm doing. And thankfully, his mindset is, well, if you can go and be your own person and you're self-reliant and I don't have to take care of you anymore, great. You know? So it's a completely different dynamic that I grew up in. And it worked out for me, and that's how it was. But you know, there are more people that I work with that come from more conservative backgrounds. So it's all about, you know, proving that it's okay for you to do this job. And I think that there's a misconception that, oh, okay, you're the only woman in a room full of men, but you're there to do a very important job. Like I feel like I'm quite patriotic in the way that I get to go and say I've protected the skies of my country. You know, I work the whole UAE airspace. So I've had to tell my parents that this is what I'm doing. So I feel like when there's resistance, it's usually because there's ignorance. So choose to educate your family members and your loved ones that this is what I want to do. And I'm going to go and do it to the best of my ability. And you know, now I'm controlling the skies of my country and protecting the skies, and that's what I've been given to do. So in this sense, to be able to help other people that have more conservative households, I created a social media page that shows I'm a woman, I'm doing this job, yes, I work night shifts, but look at what I'm doing. And it's okay for your daughters to come and join us. So it's all about mindset, and when people do push, remember, it's usually ignorance, so choose to educate them instead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, one last question. You mentioned that your daughter is here, she's joining you today. And I think she's almost our age, maybe a bit younger or almost the same age. What advice would you give your daughter today to empower her as a woman?
Thank you, and she's turning red now. She's 17, she's finishing her high school, so she will be a university graduate next year, and I'm obviously super proud of her. What I tell both my daughters, I have one eldest daughter, is to just do whatever they want to do. Like to really love something and go for it, because there's no limit to whatever they can do. And it's not about doing something I love. She's going into fashion business, and fashion and myself are completely the opposite. So it's not something that I would thought about, but this is something she's passionate about. And I think this is the most important, is to push them to do whatever they want to do.
Yes, can you give her the mic, please, the girl next to you?
Hi, first of all, I'm Judy. So my first question is for Professor Sophie Boutros. Professor Sophie, we are very knowledgeable about what you do, about your series, and how much of a powerful director that you are, and how much you love filmmaking. So my question to you is, what are the most prominent obstacles that you faced in your career that made you what you are today, that made you sit in that panel right there? So what are the most prominent obstacles that shaped your personality?
Couldn't you have asked me that in my office? Does it have to be here?
Not to voice it.
You know, being in this field, you're a creative person, and you know almost nothing about the business side, you know, so you are always fighting against what is called business and money. So the challenges in this sense are you adapting to reality. So now we're also starting to teach that to our students, that the creative side is not disconnected from everything else. Like you have to create, for example, now with social media, You have to create for a brand something that attracts an audience, something that is measurable, something that has value, monetary value, let's say. Now, it's not quite the same 100% when it comes to filmmaking and directing, but at the same time, you are working with money. You are working with a budget. So the challenge is to keep your motivation high and your creative skills at their best, while thinking at the same time that you have limitations. You can't just be a dreamer and have no rational thinking or putting a strategy to your creative work in order for it to succeed at the end. You have that much money, you have that crew, those 50, 60, or 70 people working with you, they have skills, and you have to really work with that and achieve, the creative vision that you have in mind. So these are two very contradictory things, and you have to really adapt your mindset to accept that this is reality when it comes to commercial, let's say, productions. Now, if you're working on a film meant for festivals, you have the funds and you don't care about, any income, from that film or any commercial release, or so you do that art for the sake of art, but you want to also, touch people's hearts. So there is also a kind of thinking behind it, not only a creative side, it's also rationalizing things, So learning that is really hard because you think of yourself as being the creative person and that's it, but then you find yourself, digging into things that. And this is why I did my master's here at AUD, because I wanted to understand the backside of things, like how to think as a business, person. I'm never going to be a businesswoman though, but just understanding, how it works, how your mindset can shift in order for you to create something and succeed in it at the same time, not just create it and put it in a drawer somewhere in your room where nobody can see it.
Thank you so much, Professor Sophia. I have another question for Ms. Nasreen. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier that your friend is going through personal troubles and she's working in a new company. So my question to you is, how can you cope with kind of balancing out your personal life and your work since you're the CEO of Virgin? So how are you doing that? How are you able to kind of go to work and forget everything that's happening in your life, problems, whether it's positive or negative, and just focus on succeeding, focus on becoming the better version that you are today?
First of all, Judy, you're very articulate, so just wanted to give you that compliment. And very clear-headed in your questions. I was thinking about that as you asked that question earlier, and I was thinking about probably every obstacle I've had has been personal, not professional. And it's exactly that thought process that I was going through. The box idea is always a good one if you're able to do it and you can train yourself to do it. You leave personal at home and you leave work at work, because that helps you succeed at work and it helps you succeed at home. And most of and I'm going to say it very openly, maybe less so in your generation, still in this part of the world, culturally, a lot falls on the shoulders of a woman, especially when you become a mother, a daughter, a sister. A lot falls on you socially as a sense of responsibility. I think of it as an opportunity, not a responsibility. It's not a burden, but it does take away from you. It takes time, it takes effort, and you still need to balance it all together. Someone asked before, how do you manage the perspective of your boss when they have an opinion of you? The best way forward is openness. You'd be surprised how much empathy there is in the workplace. If I recently had a situation, someone was going through a divorce. Before they even went through the divorce, they came and said, by the way, I just want to let you know, this is happening. We've planned to have a divorce. It will impact my work. And that's all I needed to know. Then I can bring in extra support. I can do the work for them. So preparing the people around you and preparing yourself. The other thing is, we are lucky enough to be in the Middle East where we can afford to be in a network of support. use that support. I think Christine or someone said, don't do it all yourself. Don't do it all yourself. Get the help when you need the help. Whether it's therapy, whether it's family, you can do a lot more if you get the support that you need.
Any more questions?
I have a question over here. I would like to really discuss the 3 waves of feminism. Now we are in the 21st century and we are in the 3rd wave feminism. And it's really all about just, all in all, I want to focus on my career, I don't want to have children, I don't want to get married, I don't want to be burnt out 24/7 because that's what I want to do. So how do you guys articulate with this whole notion of so independent, hyper independent, and really not making time for the other soft parts of our feminine side?
So the most important thing is to define what is success. And for me, for example, success is being happy, is waking up every morning and excited to do whatever I have to do, excited to be surrounded by the people that I love. So it's deciding what is success and to ensure that I use a system that is called the Wheel of Life. So it's 12 different part of your lives. For me, it's very important that every part of my life is balanced. So the time I spend with my family, fun and adventure, friends, work, growth, education, every single part of my life needs to be flourishing for me to be happy. So my question to you becomes, what is happiness for you? What makes you happy? Maybe for you is to run a $1 billion business. So this means that there are some other parts of your life where you won't have time at this particular point in time because you're focusing on your business. So you don't need to figure everything out all the time, but it's important for you to wake up in the morning and be happy and excited about what you're going to do during the day. So this would be my take.
I did what you did, which is I chose the route of professional over family. And so I married late, I had children late. The only advice I can say is it's a personal journey. And as we have a lot of women in this room, if anyone's thinking along those lines, freeze your eggs, because that gives you a lot of time to figure your life out and find the right partner and not marry for the wrong reasons. But it's very much the way I used to think as a New Yorker. But definitely the only thing I would say is some people choose to marry young and lead that life. Some people marry late. We all end up in the same place. Now that I reflect back and I see my friends, we're all the same age. Some started young, some started late. It all gets you at the same destination in the end.
Any more questions? Yes.
First and foremost, thank you for this beautiful panel. And my question is, from your perspective, what advice would you give young men entering the workforce today?
Yes, we need to speak about men. Who's going to answer this?
Be respectful.
For sure.
Treat them as if they're your mother, your sister, your baby sister, anybody. You have to choose to be respectful. I feel like, there are quite a few men that would say, oh, I'd never treat my sister or my mother like that. And then they go out and treat women not as well as they would treat their family members. So choose to have respect and be a better person. That would be my advice.
Mine would be that we're past the male-female conversation, and everything we just talked about relating to women applies to men as well. Find something you're passionate about, present yourself well, learning, whether you're a woman or a man, the same success factors apply.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
No more questions. Okay, great. So thank you so much, our dear panelists, for today's stories, advices. I personally enjoyed this so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. I hope you're leaving today inspired and empowered and having big dreams. and knowing that you can achieve whatever you want. A big thanks to L'Occitane for organizing this. A big thanks to AUD for having us also. I saw you took a lot of pictures and videos, so if you're going to post on social media, please don't forget to tag L'Occitane Middle East and AUD. Thank you so much for having us, and have a good day.